Colleen. Yeah, I appreciate your work as well. You're always pulling people together, and just haven't talked to you in a while. We got on a personal note here. My wife and I got our son out of the hospital yesterday, so we're
Oh,
living
great.
at a transplant house in Seattle now. But things are up and up here, and we're looking forward to getting back to work more, so to speak, as well.
Well, congratulations. It's great to hear, Corey. You.
Hi, Joseph. Pete Langley, Port Townsend Foundry. I got a couple questions for you,
Yeah,
if you can hear me.
I can.
Mine's more regarding your relationship with LNI and the respiratory protection plans and/or a voluntary respiratory protection plan. Have you had a chance to really integrate the two? Part of the question, obviously, this is a respiratory virus.
Hmm.
We're covering masks, all of the other things required. And there was a point in time, little history, we were funded for overprotecting our employees at one point. So having too much respiratory protection now in situations seems, well, that's the better deal.
Yeah.
How have you had a chance to interact? How the laws overlay
Yep.
and then that back into our sector?
Yeah. If that is a concern, what I would do is I would try to connect you with one of our consultants, Kevin, that has a long history of working with LNI and doing assessments and he knows those laws inside and out. He's on a lot of panels that kind of help uh, define some of those things as well. I can't go into too much detail because I don't know everything, but that question has come up. Concerns around can I require it? What can I require? Yesterday there was even a question of there's a guy that doesn't believe in this and he doesn't want to wear a mask and he won't wear a mask. What do we do? You know, and Kevin was able to really help him with that and show him, okay, during a pandemic, this is what the laws allow you to do. This is how you need to document what's going on, and the results of if they don't. It sounds like, Peter, you're kind of on the other side of things, or at least you've experienced the other side of things of maybe uh, uh, trying to do protect people a little too much before all of this. If I understand the question correctly. Kevin would be a wonderful resource for you to make sure you have your ducks in a row and um, to justify the things that you're wanting to do, not just with yourself, but also if LNI came, if there was a complaint to LNI that you're doing too much, which uh, I think would get thrown out, especially if we did one of these assessments and we had it in writing from a third party group that said, no, it makes sense that they're requiring this or requesting this. Um, so yeah, I would connect you with Kevin to do your assessment.
Well, it is interesting, and that part is the standard in the industry for Washington State, Illinois, and then the boundaries are typically 18% accident rate. We're less than a half of 1% on our
Yeah,
history. So that part being extra special say, but important that people realize that even if somebody does come in and find you, and I only reduce the fine by 50%, even if you're not guilty or have any violations. So there's a real things to watch out for, and some of those are, again, uh, brought on by people who just wanted to make a complaint because they like industry. They may not understand how business and economics work, but that's something I think all three of us here in Jefferson County have an issue with if we don't watch what the
yeah,
community's doing and or ourselves to make sure that they understand we are being extra safe
yeah.
and we're being a good partner in our communities. These jobs are more vital, I think, than many others. Obviously, the numbers of manufacturing at 3 to 1 in the industry and provides an economic tax base for our communities real important.
Yeah. Interesting study came out by a third party group recently that about 75% of manufacturers don't have a fully formed, written out prevention plan. Uh, and
Yeah.
they've seen about 12% of employers have LNI, formal LNI or other formalized complaints against them. Um, you know, first and foremost, it's about protecting your employees, and then that's why we're doing this. But secondly, it's also about protecting you guys. And um, I think that moving forward, aside from the assessment, that Kevin would be a wonderful resource for you as any of these kind of things come up. So I'm looking forward to connecting you with him because I do think that you'll be able to learn a lot from him. He's awesome. So
Yeah, we'll reach out and we'll get them set up.
perfect.
Yeah, Joseph, I'll just add to that since it's limited discussion here or individuals getting involved, but I do have to share that we've had a real challenge with that with our employees
Okay.
regarding what legally, we're getting onto constitutional rights and what have you, and as far as this isn't something that the government can put in place as far as making laws for things and that of this nature, this type of nature. So we've been able to I think handle it pretty well, given that we're putting employee safety, the public safety, and of their fellow workmates and stuff at a top priority. And this is just what we're requiring people
Yeah.
to do. But it's going to become a bigger issue. I can definitely see moving forward here as more companies get open, and that's why I'm very excited to get a third party assessment
Okay.
so that we can show to our other, like for example, and Colleen's been involved in this with discussions about the payroll protection loan and stuff like that. We've had a challenge getting and continue to have a challenge getting certain employees back to work because, well, for kind of a compound issue with some of them making more on unemployment than they would coming back to work, but also of course they're the safety factor of exposure and
Yeah.
stuff. So it's pretty interesting, the different dynamic going on here. We just want to be able to provide a safe, documented workplace, and like we do in general with safety and L&I. So I think
Yeah.
it'll be really good to have that as a take out of this, for sure.
Yeah, it was really interesting during the call yesterday, talking to them because we kind of went through, you know, a little bit of what their facility looks like and which employees they were asking and how they were asking. And in their situation, it came down to, you know, this is as important, not whether you believe in it or not. By law for them in their situation, Kevin said, this is as important and this falls under the same laws for them as requiring someone to wear a hard hat.
Yeah.
And so those same types of, I can't remember the exact verbiage under the laws that he used, but that ultimately they're putting your company in a legal situation that is not favorable. And that it would, if they were to be terminated or there would be consequences like that would need to be taken, that it would be basically the same thing as them refusing to wear a hard hat in a hard hat area. So that was their situation. I'm not an expert. Someone like Kevin would be able to help step you through that. But it was a very interesting conversation yesterday. We've also had similar conversations about who can we require temperature checks? Can someone decline to take a temperature check? How do we document that? How do we, there's questions around that. Also, just the logistics of, who does it? How do they do it? We helped one company figure out how to do kind of a mobile cart because they have employees coming in one door and then they do their stuff and then they have to leave out another door, and they didn't want to have two full-blown stations so they put together a cart, and we helped them come up with some tips on how to design that. So you're talking to engineers and owners. You're not talking to someone from the state that's just looking to check boxes, right? These are discussions, these are, brainstorming sessions, and that's why they're so useful, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And your point about whether, they believe in it or not, this kind of, it's as employers, it's our responsibility to, keep people safe and get people, back to work and get the economy going. So, the integration with, laws, regulations, stuff like that, and an employee side, it adds a lot of, this definitely adds a lot of extra strain on the employers, to make it all work, but that's just part of the deal. So we appreciate your help. I'm going to sign off here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yep.
So Joseph, I've got a comment and a couple more questions as well. So along with what Pete and Corey have said, what we've basically decided to do early on is just be completely transparent with our employees, obviously, with regards to, whatever SBA programs there are, the implications to unemployment, what role they have to play, what role we're expected to play, should we get funding, etc. Yep. The other thing that we've done is, because we are also partially operating right now, is we've done all that stuff with social distancing and the hand washing and sanitizing and the masks and everything. And we've actually asked people to sign on as a team to say that, that they recognize things that we're doing for our benefit and for their benefit, and that they acknowledge that they have a role to play in making sure that the whole team and organization is managing safely. So they're taking some ownership, if you will, in that. And so we're documenting that, because whilst you can't legally require somebody, they should feel obligated still to do those things which are the right things to do, and utilize the stations and PP and stuff like that, right? And again, it's about being transparent, but also making them feel like, you guys have some stake in this too. Yeah. But also kind of CYA a little bit, in the sense that they're acknowledging that we are doing the right things, and they're fully aware, and they know that they have to play a role in that process as well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And one thing that that we're looking at, kind of as parts of the follow-up to these, and that we're seriously considering doing, is, people that are struggling getting sign-on from some of their employees, helping take some of the leadership trainings and things that we do, and kind of tweaking them towards exactly the things that you said of, how do we logistically do this? You don't want to be that person that's driving people crazy by having to call them out all the time, right? It has to come from them, and you have to figure out ways to do that. And in some facilities and some groups, that's really easy, and in other ones, it's just harder. The mask is itchy. Okay, well, what can we do engineering-wise to solve that? Also, what can we do to help enforce that, so you don't have to go around and try and catch people, right? That's not the ideal, and that's not the spirit of doing this, right? So
now I will tell you that I think for the most part, I don't know of any employee that has not been supportive, that has not wanted to continue to work, and that has not wanted to contribute in some way to helping find better, more optimal ways of managing in that situation. Yeah. So I think we've been blessed from that perspective, that everybody seems to be pretty much on board. In fact, they're more worried about outside of work, what's going on. Yeah. Because quite frankly, you don't know where you may be susceptible to the virus, right? And they feel like they're more susceptible
at the grocery store.
Than we are when you're inside. Yeah. All right, then I have one question, because I was working with Sarah as well, I think is her name, with Impact Washington, because we had put a bid in to see if we could make face shields for the state, right? Yep. Now, with regards to that, one of your slides earlier was PPE. Let's face facts. This virus is not going away anytime soon. It's going to be with us this year and into next year. Some of these safety practices and standards that we're having to adopt now are going to be with us probably going into next year. Yeah. And with even consumers or shoppers, with folks that are not employed being asked to use sanitizers and other PPE, there's going to be an increased demand. And an increased shortage of availability of PPE. So whilst we can put all these elements in place, if we can't secure some of the supplies ready to operate, this becomes a real problem on a real practical level, right? Yeah. So what is it that we can do? For example, I'm able to source, K95 masks and gallons of hand sanitizer. And so what is it that we can do within our own county, as an example, instead of looking at FEMA, which is a national stockpile? Gosh, if the hospitals are having a hard time accessing that and the state governments, how the heck are we supposed to access that? Okay. So it's a great resource, but it's not practical. I feel like we need something that we can work together on within our geography. So if Pete wants a gallon of hand sanitizer for his place, he doesn't have to spend 2 hours looking for it, as an example, or going to KFC every day to pick up a little 8-ounce bottle and buy 4 of them or something.
Yeah.
He should be able to access supplies very, very easily. So what is it that we can help do here that allows us to open up, be safe, and have supplies so that we can manage that opening on an ongoing basis?
Yeah. Well, hopefully those sites will help alleviate some of that. One idea that I have right now is possibly teaming up with some of your fellow manufacturers and purchasing together. You may be able to secure more quantities, or be able to buy in a larger bulk and then separate those. Another thought that I have is possibly, Colleen, this is something that that maybe you guys might be able to help head up, or make a list of, like you said, the local people that maybe you've got a distillery that is making hand sanitizer that they can snag, or these guys are making shields. Maybe there's someone making masks or something. If not in your okay,
we do.
So,
we have
perfect.
one entity making hand sanitizer. That's one of the owners of Blackball Ferry. His wife owns a distillery firm, and so they've switched to that. And then also, I know there's a group in Scrim that's been organized together to make a lot of masks, and they don't even know where to send them at this point. They have a lot, too many. So yeah, getting you, I think I can put you in touch with those people.
Here in Port Townsend, the Admiral Distillery is making hand sanitizer. Plus, they also have a generic byproduct that is an everyday thing that is actually a cleanser. Can be used, high alcohol content for cleaning machinery, bathrooms, any of that stuff. And so contact Jake Soul at Admiral Distillery. It's right up in the industrial park. And I think it is a good thing to start networking these smaller supply chains so we can keep our community viable and spread the wealth, so to speak, as we need those supplies.
Yeah. So Joseph and Colleen, Pete, thanks for that feedback. I know I also have access to supplies as well. And I do think as a community and a county, if we want to sustain the opening, and if we want to do it in a way that's great for community, great for the economic well-being, this is a real practical place, actually. It's almost like an ingredient. You can't bake without baking soda, let's say. It's that type of a thing, So I do think that we do need to come together. I would like to help participate in that process, do whatever's help, whether it's putting lists and contacts and quantities and pricing or whatever available. I'd be more than happy to help, because I think it's a critical aspect to us continuing to do business. Colleen, you're on mute.
Yeah, okay, and I see Brian's on mute there too, but I would think we could easily work together, and we've got our Choose Column First page and .com, choosecolumnfirst.com, and I know Brian's doing something similar, but we have a large social media campaign as well, so we can make that a one of the issues that they start working on, that we start working on, to share that information out more broadly, and then use the website as a kind of home base of data and information for people to use as a resource.
Okay, so who will lead that? And I guess when do we start that process? We can do it after the call, if you will. But to me, this is the real blocking and tackling type stuff, okay?
Yeah, yeah, kind of local PPE resources.
Right, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, I can certainly add that under our resource page, and maybe it's just a spreadsheet of people's information and what products they have, and then the users could go there and then contact them directly.
Yeah, so there is an element to this thing. We can take it offline, but there's a whole element of prioritization. And like you go to other places, you know, we don't want people buying more than they need to. It's like toilet paper. Okay, we know you're not going to the bathroom at work because you're out of work, but for Pete's sakes, you don't need to hoard so much toilet paper. It's like you don't need to hoard so much PPE if we want it to go around appropriately, you know? So we can talk separately about how to manage that situation. But I've got another question, actually. You know, Governor Inslee a few weeks back suggested that there were 10 counties that were that they thought could apply to open, and obviously Jefferson County did not choose to do that. I believe Clallam did, right? And so,
yeah, no. Let's see. We were not given the opportunity to open because you're supposed to. One of the criteria was that you had gone more than 3 weeks or more since you had a case, and we had not gone that long. The case that we had was actually from another state, and they weren't here, but their home of residence was Clallam, so that counted as a case. But you know, our local health official has said that they think we shouldn't be opening up before June 1st based on the available contract tracing and the available testing. Though our rates have been really quite low. We've had now, I think, 19 confirmed cases, and I know at least 17 of those have resolved. And one's a person that's in Arizona, but still their residence is here. So that restricted us from being part of that, the group of 10 counties that were being considered to open early.
yeah, so one of my concerns is, of course, here, listen, I am completely in support of stay at home, okay? I think we all are as individuals. I think our health and our families and our communities come first. I think we're all there. But there's a real issue with how we balance that with the whole economic well-being of the communities as well, okay? And as employers, you know, here we're talking about doing all the right things to allow us to make sure that people come to work safe and we can maintain a continuity of that, because that's going to be critically important going into the summer and later. But the whole aspect of when we can open and how we open, I think we need to take a real rational approach to this thing. So I think it's important, working with Impact or county officials, there are some industries and businesses that can very easily do the social distancing and provide the safety and hygiene standards required to open. And, you know, to suggest that we've got to wait for adequate testing and stuff like that, my God, the whole country, there's not a city or county I know of in the whole United States of America or Canada that is not waiting for adequate testing and stuff like that, you know? So on the one hand, I feel like we get kept hanging out there to dry. On the other hand, I feel like we can mobilize resources to do a great job if we do it surgically and not kind of paint this thing with broad brushstrokes.
Well, I hear what you're saying, that, you know, it's a state decision. Department of Health, Department of Commerce, L&I, and the governor's office are the entities that are making these collective decisions. But specifically on testing, it's about the reagents and the cartridges.
Oh, I know.
And Clallam County OMC has had them on order since March and has not been able to receive any as of yet. So not until they get a supply to OMC will that be modified. So I know they're working on it, but that's pay level grades way above me.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I know smart people are working on it.
Yeah, and I think that's my primary concern. It's not that people aren't trying to do the right stuff, you know. And my worry is that we're not like you know, some other smaller countries or geographies that can lock borders down. You know, we had a great weekend with great weather here on the Seattle side where I live right now, and I can't tell you, I was disturbed by the number of people out in the sheer numbers without wearing any protective gear and stuff like that. And I thought, and I had a neighbor of mine that was decided, guess what? They're going to go visit Squim. They don't use any PPE. They're quite well-to-do, and they were going to go visit Squim because, you know, their mother lived out there and stuff like that. And so this flow of people, whether through a gas station or whatever, you know, can still disrupt what we need to do as a community, right?
Yeah, right.
And so, you know, we can't achieve ultimate lockdown that way.
Yeah.
And so getting numbers to a certain point and also requiring testing to be at a certain point, there is actually a collision course here with the economic well-being and the sustenance of our community as well, that we need to look at in a very rational way.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Well, are there any other last comments or issues you want to ask of Impact Washington? Okay, if not, I think that that will conclude our presentation, and I really wholeheartedly thank Jeff and Joseph for joining us and doing this. We will get their slides emailed out and links to the recording as soon as we're able to upload the whole thing, which will be a while, but I could send out the slides right away to everyone, and we'll make sure this is shared broadly as well.
Great.
Hey, so
Thanks very much for your participation.
Thank you all.
Brian, do you have any parting comments?
No, just thank you for everyone for joining us today. Impact Washington, thank you for being so quick and responsive to this request, and for all the work you continue to do. Jeff and Joseph, looking forward to working with you in the weeks and months ahead, and some good items raised here today. I'll be in follow-up with Farouk, you and others for some of the questions and comments you raised as well. So thank you, Colleen, as always, for collaboration and partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did talk to Westport and ACTI and FKC Screw Press and some others, and they said to send the slides along, and so Joseph and Jeff, you may be hearing from them. But I'll direct them to you, Joseph. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
for the time being, I'm kind of spearheading this.
Okay, got it.
So.
I will tell them to contact you. Okay, thanks so much, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.